Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today we're digging into some material about recent immigration trends in Canada.
That's right. Specifically focusing on immigration from India and some, let's say, strong viewpoints about its impact.
Yeah, you shared these excerpts, looks like from a podcast called HiddenTruthTales. Episode 2, The Indian Hiring Way of Canada.
And the episode title itself is quite provocative. Canada's Great Replacement, How Indians Are Taking Over Jobs and Why Canadians Are Angry.
Wow. Okay, so pretty direct.
Yeah.
Our mission today then is to really unpack the main arguments and claims being made in these sources.
Exactly. It's a specific perspective, uses some loaded language, so we need to carefully look at what's actually being asserted here about immigration, jobs, the economy.
Okay, let's get right into it. What's the central argument they're starting with? It seems pretty gold.
It is. Right off the bat, the claim is that Canada is becoming, and I quote, no longer a country for Canadians.
Okay.
And they attribute this directly to mass immigration from India. They throw out a figure over 1.3 million people in the last 5 years.
1.3 million? Wow. And the consequence, according to them?
Well, they argue this is leading to Indian individuals sort of taking over tech jobs, specifically.
Taking over tech jobs?
Yeah, and that this is depressing wages and causing unemployment, especially among young Canadians.
And they have a label for this.
They do. They call it demographic replacement and explicitly contrast it with the idea of diversity. So it's framed as a displacement, not an addition.
That's a very strong way to frame it. Setting a tone of, well, alarm, really.
Definitely. It establishes a narrative of significant negative change right from the beginning.
All right, so how do they claim this takeover, as they put it, is happening? What are the mechanisms?
They outline a few key things. First up is the express entry system.
Canada's main skilled worker program.
Exactly. But they call it the express entry scam.
Scam. Why?
Their argument is that this merit-based system is somehow skewed, that it disproportionately favors Indian tech workers.
Okay. Do they offer any proof?
They make a very specific claim that 60% of IT jobs in Canada are now held by individuals from India.
60%? That sounds incredibly high. What does that make you think?
Well, express entry is designed to bring in skilled people based on points, education, experience, language.
Right.
And yes, India has a large tech sector. So many skilled tech workers do come through that system. But calling it a scam implies deliberate misuse or manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
The real question might be whether the criteria naturally favor certain globally in-demand skills like tech, which are abundant in places like India.
And that 60% figure?
It's very precise. You need to see the data behind it, Is it new hires? The whole sector, national, regional? It raises questions. And even if the percentage is high, does that automatically mean it's a negative thing for everyone else?
Yeah.
That's the leap the source seems to make.
Okay, what's the next mechanism they point to?
This one they call diploma mill exploitation.
Diploma mills?
Yeah.
Like fake colleges?
That's the implication. They mention specific areas, Brampton and Mississauga, suggesting these places have colleges that are primarily used as a backdoor for low-wage labor from India to enter Canada.
This touches on something that has been discussed, right? Concerns about some private colleges?
It does. There have been legitimate questions raised about the quality control and oversight of certain private post-secondary institutions, particularly regarding international students.
The idea being that some might be more about selling visas or work permits than actual education.
Potentially, yes. That's the concern, that the focus shifts from genuine study to just getting into the country and working. But it's crucial not to paint all private institutions or all international students with that same brush.
Of course.
The core issue really is about ensuring the student visa program has integrity and protects everyone involved, including the students.
Got it. And the third mechanism they cite?
Wage suppression. This one connects back to the jobs argument.
How so?
They cite Statistics Canada data, though, without giving specifics in the excerpt, claiming that individuals from India working in Toronto are paid, on average, 30% less than Canadians for the same jobs.
30% less for the same work. That's a major claim.
It is. And they follow it up with a quote, apparently from their material. They're not skilled immigrants. They're cheap labor imports crushing Canadian graduates.
Wow. That's incredibly blunt and inflammatory.
Extremely. A claim of a some % wage gap based purely on national origin is serious. If true, you need to understand why. Is it experience levels, specific niche skills, discrimination, or something else entirely?
Just blaming national origin seems overly simple.
It does. It simplifies a really complex economic situation and, frankly, fuels a divisive narrative. That quote really captures a feeling of economic anxiety and questions the whole premise of skilled immigration.
Okay, so those are the mechanisms they allege. Then the source shifts focus to who they say is paying the price for all this. Who's first on their list?
Young Canadians, especially those under 30 in tech hubs.
And the claim is?
They state the unemployment rate for this group in tech hubs is at 12%, and they directly imply it's because they're being locked out of the job market by the influx of workers from India.
12% unemployment for young people, that's certainly a concern, but linking it only to immigration from one country.
Exactly. Youth unemployment is complex. It depends on the overall economy, skill mismatches between graduates and jobs, employer expectations about experience, even just timing.
Right. Lots of factors.
So, pinning it solely on immigration, specifically from India, feels like a very narrow interpretation. It makes you wonder what the broader data on youth employment trends actually shows.
Who else do they say is paying the price?
They argue that Black and Indigenous professionals are also being negatively affected.
How?
The argument is that corporate diversity hiring initiatives are, in practice, primarily benefiting immigrants from India, rather than addressing the historical underrepresentation of Black and Indigenous Canadians.
That's quite a claim. It sort of pits different groups against each other.
It does. It raises really important questions about how diversity initiatives are designed and implemented. What is the goal? Is it being measured effectively? If the perception is that one group is benefiting disproportionately, especially at the expense of groups meant to be supported by equity measures, that suggests a potential problem in how diversity is being defined or actioned in some workplaces.
A very complex issue there. Anyone else on their list of who pays?
Yes, taxpayers and renters. They connect the immigration increase from India directly to the housing crisis.
The housing crisis. How do they make that link?
The claim is pretty straightforward. That increased numbers of immigrants from India are, quote, crowding into rentals and causing prices to skyrocket.
So blaming one group for rising rents.
That's the narrative presented. They even suggest using a clip, supposedly from a Canadian graduate on Reddit, saying something like, I have a CS degree, but every job wants 5 years experience, or hires only from India.
Okay, linking job market frustration and housing costs.
Right. Now, obviously, population growth does impact housing demand, especially in cities. That's basic economics. Immigration contributes to population growth.
But it's not the only factor driving up rents, surely.
Absolutely not. Housing supply, zoning laws, interest rates, real estate speculation, construction costs. There are so many pieces to the housing affordability puzzle. Singling out one immigrant group as the sole or primary cause is a major oversimplification.
And the Reddit quote.
It reflects real frustration some people feel, no doubt. But an anecdote, especially from an anonymous source online, isn't necessarily representative of the whole job market or everyone's experience.
Good point. Okay, so after identifying the supposed problems and victims, where does the source go next?
It moves into what they frame as the political betrayal. This is where they assign blame more directly.
Let me guess. The government.
Primarily, yes. They criticize the current government, mentioning Trudeau by name, and particularly the target of bringing in 500,000 immigrants per year.
And who do they say benefits from this policy?
According to the source, it's big business and something they call